He was 55 years old, standing in a bank parking lot, holding a letter that told him his mortgage application had been denied for the third time in 2 years. He had worked his entire adult life, paid his taxes, never missed a credit card payment, and the bank looked at his income, looked at today's housing market, looked at the numbers, and said no. That was 18 months ago. Today, he owns his home outright. No mortgage, no property tax, no landlord, no bank has any claim on a single square foot of where he sleeps at night. And he built the entire thing for $500. What you're looking at in this video is not a dream. It is not a hack. It is not some fringe movement for people who gave up on real life. It is the most rational response to a housing system that is completely broken down, and thousands of American men are discovering it right now, quietly, before the window closes forever. The average American home costs $320,000 today. That is the average. In California, Florida, and Texas, you are staring at $450,000 to $600,000 for something completely ordinary. You sign the mortgage. You agree to 30 years of payments. You do the math 3 months later and realize you are not paying $320,000 for that house. You're paying $1.1 million by the time the interest finishes draining you dry. And the bank wins. Every single time. But the mortgage is not even the worst part anymore. Property taxes are what is destroying people right now. Tennessee, Texas, Florida, Georgia, counties are reassessing property values every 2 years. Men who bought their homes a decade ago, who thought they were finally safe, are opening tax bills that jumped from $4,000 a year to $9,000 overnight. They did not move. They did not renovate. The government simply decided their land was worth more and sent them the bill. Refused to pay, and they take the house. The house you have been paying for since your son was in elementary school. This is not a housing market. This is a hostage situation. And the man in this video looked at that system at 55 years old and made a completely different choice. He found a $500 steel arch. He bolted it to a flatbed trailer. And he built himself a home that the government cannot classify as real property, which means the government cannot tax it the way they tax everything else you own. Here is what most people do not know about Quonset huts. These structures were born during World War II. The United States military needed shelters that could be shipped flat, assembled by ordinary soldiers with zero construction experience, and survive brutal conditions across every climate on Earth. What they engineered was a half-cylinder of corrugated steel, an arch simple, virtually indestructible. Tens of thousands were manufactured and deployed across the Pacific Theater, across Europe, across the Arctic. They survived everything the war threw at them. After the war ended, surplus Quonsets sold to the American public for almost nothing. Farmers used them. Small businesses stored equipment in them. Some families lived in them for decades without a single structural problem. 80 years later, that same arch steel design is back. But this time, it is sitting on a trailer with wheels. And that one detail changes everything about how American law sees it. Here is where it gets serious. In most states, if your home has a permanent foundation, it is classified as real property. Real property gets assessed. Real property gets taxed. Real property falls under zoning laws, building codes, HOA regulations, and county ordinances that were written by people who have never struggled to afford a single thing in their lives. Real property can be seized if you fail to pay what the government decides you owe each year, an amount they control completely. Not you, but if your home sits on a trailer with wheels and is registered as a vehicle, most states treat it in an entirely different legal category. You pay vehicle registration, sometimes $80 a year, sometimes $200, but you do not pay property tax. You are not subject to most zoning restrictions. No homeowners association has any legal authority over you, and you can move anytime you choose, any direction you want. That is not a loophole. That is freedom. And right now, in most of the United States, it is completely legal. So how does a 55-year-old man actually build one of these for $500? Every single step matters here because most videos show you the pretty finished product and skip everything useful. That stops right now. Step 1 is finding the shell. Quonset hut shells appear constantly on Craigslist. Facebook Marketplace, farm auctions, and salvage yards across the country. Farmers buy them to store equipment. Businesses use them as temporary warehouses. When they are done, they sell the shells for almost nothing just to clear the property. A 16-foot Quonset shell in solid condition sells for $500 to $2,000, depending on your location and timing. If you buy new, a basic steel arch kit runs $3,000 to $8,000. Either way, you are starting with one of the strongest structures per dollar that exists in American construction. The arch distributes weight so efficiently that these structures handle heavy snow loads, sustain high winds, and decades of weather that would destroy a traditional wood frame building in the same conditions. Stay with this because the next part is where most men make their single most expensive mistake. Step 2 is the trailer base. You are not building a foundation. You are buying a used flatbed trailer. Equipment trailers, car haulers, and utility flatbeds appear constantly in the used market for $1,500 to $3,500. You want something rated for the combined weight of your shell plus interior build-out, which for a 16 to 20-foot Quonset typically lands between 8,000 and 12,000 pounds total. The trailer is your mobile foundation. It gives the structure its vehicle classification. It gives you the legal identity that separates this home from taxable real estate. And it gives you the ability to relocate with nothing more than a capable pickup truck. That mobility is worth more than most men understand when they first begin this process. Step 3 is insulation, and this is where the arch becomes your most powerful engineering advantage. Most men look at a corrugated steel shell and assume it will be freezing in winter and an oven in summer. They are wrong if this step is done correctly. Spray foam insulation applied directly to the interior of the steel arch creates an airtight thermal envelope that outperforms most traditional home insulation systems. The curved geometry means there are no corners for cold air to pool in and no flat ceiling for heat to stratify against. The spray foam bonds directly to the metal, eliminates condensation forming on the interior surface, and adds structural rigidity at the same time. A proper spray foam job on a 16-foot Quonset costs $1,200 to $2,500, depending on thickness. For a home you'll actually live in through real winters, you want a minimum of 3 inches of closed-cell foam. 5 inches if you are parking in Minnesota, Montana, or anywhere temperatures drop below zero regularly. Do not cut corners on this step. It is the single most critical technical decision in the entire build, and the one that determines whether you are comfortable or miserable in January. Step 4 is the door and porch, and this is where the transformation becomes something you can feel. That rustic reclaimed wood door, that small covered porch with ferns and wooden steps. None of it is expensive. Old barnwood, salvage decking, and rough-cut timber from a local mill costs a fraction of finished lumber from any retail store. A man can frame that entire porch and door surround for $400 to $800 in materials. The result looks like something from a design publication. The contrast between raw industrial steel and warm reclaimed wood is visually striking in a way that photographs and films like nothing else on the internet. That aesthetic is why these builds get shared every single time someone posts them. It does not look like poverty. It looks like intention. Step 5 is where the comparison to traditional housing completely falls apart. A basic solar setup capable of running lighting, a small refrigerator, a laptop, and phone charging costs $1,500 to $3,000 installed. A composting toilet eliminates septic connection entirely and is legal as a primary system in most rural counties across the country. Rainwater collection filtered through a quality 3-stage system provides clean drinking water for $600 to $1,200 in total hardware. A small propane tankless water heater handles showers and dishes for approximately $300. A mini split heat pump provides both heating and air conditioning with remarkable efficiency. Your total monthly utility costs inside a properly built off-grid Quonset home runs between $0 and $60. The average American utility bill runs $320 per month. The numbers require no explanation. Step 6 is interior finish. Some builders leave exposed spray foam walls with industrial-style hardware, and it photographs like an art installation. Others panel with shiplap, which installs quickly, costs very little, and looks like a high-end cabin in every photograph taken inside it. A sleeping loft built into the upper arch curve adds a full bedroom, without consuming any floor-level square footage. A compact kitchen with a 2-burner propane range, a small sink, and open shelving takes 80 square feet. A bathroom with a composting toilet, a corner shower, and a vanity fits in 40. Smart multi-use furniture, a convertible sofa, a fold-down dining table, built-in bench storage, makes a 16-foot Quonset live significantly larger than the numbers suggest. Every man who has stood inside a finished one says the same thing. They did not expect it to feel like that. Total build cost for a fully livable off-grid, road-legal Quonset home on wheels runs $8,000 to $25,000, depending on finish level, material sourcing, and how much labor a man does himself. The 55-year-old man in this video sourced his shell for $500. He did most of the labor over several weekends with 2 close friends. His total all-in cost landed under $14,000. He owns it outright. No mortgage payment. No property tax bill. No HOA letter. No bank. Nothing. Now the part that most videos will not tell you, because there are real problems with this path, and pretending otherwise is dishonest. Finding legal land to park long-term is the biggest obstacle most men hit. Rural properties where you can connect to a well and existing septic system are the most viable solution. Tennessee, Texas, West Virginia, and Missouri all have active rural land markets where small parcels sell for $15,000 to $40,000 with minimal restrictions on what you park on them. Other states make this significantly harder. Research your target state before building anything. Call the county planning office directly. Ask specifically whether a vehicle-classified dwelling on wheels requires a special use permit on rural land. Get that answer in writing. Insurance is the second real obstacle. Traditional homeowners insurance does not cover a structure on wheels. RV insurance policies vary widely in how they handle permanent dwelling Quonsets. Specialty insurers now write policies specifically for tiny homes and non-traditional dwellings, and rates are improving as this market grows. But you will need to shop hard and explain your build in full detail to every agent you contact. The third obstacle is serious winter. A properly insulated Quonset with solid closed-cell spray foam and a quality mini-split performs well down to negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit before the system starts to struggle. Below that threshold, a backup propane heater becomes essential and consumption rises sharply. Budget for extra insulation, a high-efficiency propane backup, and trailer skirting that blocks wind from stealing heat through your floor. Men do this successfully in cold climates every single year, but it requires honest preparation, not optimism. A 58-year-old man in rural Missouri sold a suburban home 2 years ago. He took $180,000 in equity, bought 5 acres with a well and septic for $28,000, built a Quonset on wheels for $19,000, and banked the rest. His monthly cost dropped from $3,800 to under $400. He now travels 3 months every year and reports sleeping better than he has in 2 decades. A 34-year-old veteran built his Quonset in 6 weekends with 2 friends. He learned welding from free online tutorials. He rented a spray foam rig and did the insulation himself. He wired his solar system following a $29 online course. Total cost was $11,200. He parks on a rural property for $200 a month on a handshake agreement. His total monthly housing expense is $200 against a monthly take-home of $3,400. Consider what that single ratio does to a man's entire life. The counties are beginning to notice this movement. Some municipalities are already pushing to close the zoning gaps. Some state legislatures are introducing bills that would reclassify vehicle-dwelling structures as real property regardless of their wheels. The window that currently exists across most of the United States is open, but it will not stay open permanently. The men who move now will own their shelter free and clear before the rules tighten. The men who wait may find the option no longer available. At 55, after a bank told him the system had no space for him, one man stopped asking the system for permission. He found a $500 shell. He built a home. He owns it completely. Every morning he wakes up carrying zero housing debt in the country, where the average man carries that weight for 30 consecutive years and never feels it fully lift. The question is not whether this life is for everyone, The question is whether your current situation is actually as secure as you believe it to be. Property taxes will not stop rising. Mortgage rates will not return to what they were. But a steel arch on a flatbed trailer, paid for in full, taxed at vehicle registration rates, will sit on your land and shelter you for as long as you choose to stay. If you found this genuinely useful, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to know exactly how men are surviving brutal cold winters inside structures like this one, without freezing, without crushing propane bills, and without losing their grip, subscribe now. That video is coming, and it will answer every question you have about making this work through the hardest months of the year.